Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football, and we are continuing to take a look at some of the bigger Week 1 matchups in the 2022 college football season. Today, we're taking a look at the Clemson Tigers going on the road and facing the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Before we get into it, just wanted to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel, especially the Georgia Tech fans. You guys have been absolutely awesome. You guys enjoyed our preview that we did in the summer. We appreciate all your support. Also, the Clemson fans. We're very, very high on Clemson. We're talking a lot about Clemson. So, again, if you guys do enjoy the content, you like chopping it up about ball, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. What are the storylines here? What are you looking for in this Week 1 matchup here?
I think the whole college football universe is looking at DJ Uiagalelei. Can he return to what we thought he was going to be after his freshman year when he had his couple starts and looked really, really good? And then obviously the train just fell off the tracks last year and they couldn't move the ball at any point. So I think that's at the end of the day what everyone's curious. Can he look like we think he should look?
Yeah, I want to actually pull up Clemson's depth chart because I do want to talk about just a few players that I'm excited to see. It does start with DJU, but I'm not totally on board with that narrative. And it's not necessarily just you. It's just the national media in general that it was all DJU's fault. Like, you watch him at that Georgia, like, they could not block Georgia up front. I think DJ got a little rattled. The offensive line was pretty consistently poor all year. The wide receivers were not great. And then his running backs were both true freshmen who were toting the rock. Like, there was a lot wrong, and not to mention Tony Elliott, I think, just lost his mind halfway through the year. Like, some of that offensive performances was just flat out a joke. And so I'm looking for this offense as a whole to step up. Obviously, DJ getting a chance to play a Georgia Tech team that is very winnable. They should be winning this game. Give them some confidence, and I want to see who emerges in that wide receiver room. Dill, I know you have some takes on the wide receivers. What wide receivers are you looking to kind of step up here and become that alpha Clemson wide receiver that we're so used to seeing?
And I think to me, it's got to be Ngata. Joseph Ngata is a guy who I mean, just has struggled with health for a long time, it feels like. Last year, I think he had some injuries and an inconsistent play, but that was just on an inconsistent offense. But a guy who looks like he's got the frame and the athleticism and the hands to be really, really good. So I think that's probably the main guy I'm thinking, because they need a number one. They just didn't have it last year.
Yeah, that's like guys like Justin Ross just simply was a shell of
People
himself.
weren't open. Like, they were never open on it.
Yeah, and the whole offense looked clunky, and so I'm looking for, yes, got to step up out of the wide receiver room. I'm also looking for that offensive line to play better. At times last year, especially in the Georgia game where you were facing just a plethora of talent, they looked underdeveloped. They just didn't look strong enough. They didn't look big enough to deal with some of those guys they were playing at Georgia. In the ACC, it got a little bit better. But if Clemson wants to be that team that can go 12-0 and make the college football playoffs, which we think they can do, they got to be significantly better on that offensive line. And it's a team, Georgia Tech, that it's not an FCS school. Like, they will be challenged up front, but it is a game where DJU, the offensive line, the wide receivers do have a chance to kind of build that kind of confidence, build that chemistry in.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thought on Clemson. Like, they're starting off with a game that I think makes a lot of sense for them, because if they went to a team in the FCS and rolled them by 50 points, you still have no sense of what they could be. I think you're kind of right. This team needs to get some confidence going. They need to get it going early and almost reverse exactly what was going on last year, where they were broken in the first game by the best defense to ever play football, probably, but still they were broken. So I think giving themselves a Georgia Tech test, that's a team that's been pretty feisty with these big dogs. I'd say obviously they're not winning enough games, but they're playing teams tough, and I think Geoff Collins is doing a fairly good job there. So I kind of like this matchup. I think you can see a little bit what Clemson could be.
The Geoff Collins discussion has been very interesting, and I was chopping it up with a lot of the Georgia Tech fans in the comment sections. Shout out to the Georgia Tech fans. Let us know I love talking about coaching hires. And a lot of the Georgia Tech fans are sick and tired of it. My opinion, and this is going to piss some of them off, I know it will, is the guy came from running a triple option offense. You're in between Georgia and Alabama. It's hard to get talent to come to Georgia Tech. I think the train's going in the right direction. I think it's a little unreasonable for people to think that after 3 years, Collins is going to completely change this program around, going from running the triple option to modernizing your team. It's not going to take that long, or it's not going to take that short of a time. I think you got to give him a couple more years and let it play out.
You're just trying to turn around a team that was playing like they were in the 1880s with like black and white footage. It's like not an easy task to take over for what Paul Johnson was doing, because he did. I just seems like he overstayed his welcome. Like, yeah, he was kind of had that program rolling in maybe the early 2000s, but then it never caught up with the fact that every team was throwing it 40 times a game, and that's how people were scoring. And he was dead set on sticking with that triple option and never throwing the football. So I think I'm kind of with you. Like, give Geoff Collins a shot. It seems like they're playing teams tougher than you kind of would think every year. And I get he's not winning the games, but God, he's not like – it's also like it's Georgia Tech. It's not the University of Georgia. It's not a –
So this is interesting coming from you guys, the fans. Dill was calling for Coach Harbaugh's neck a couple of years. Dill called for Coach Harbaugh's neck.
That's Michigan, Jay.
Every single year at Michigan for like 6 straight years. So Dill's normally – he's got a quick trigger with coaches. Hey, if you don't get it together in a couple of years, Dill's calling for –
That was Michigan. It's a different situation.
Oh, you mean you're more rational talking about Georgia Tech. I get it. Perhaps. That being said, they were so bad on defense last year. Like, you look at the stats. They weren't inside the top 100 on like a single statistic defensively. And you look at the last 2 games, I can kind of sympathize with some of the Georgia Tech fans that, I mean, you're used to Georgia Tech not being kind of an absolute train wreck. Got outscored 100-0 in your last 2 games against Notre Dame and Georgia. I get it was against some
those are top 5 teams,
but 100-0 that's a tough look.
I mean, it is, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I think this team's good enough to like. I don't want to say challenge Clemson, because I think Clemson should beat them by like 30, but not everything shouldn't look so easy. It shouldn't be like 50-yard touchdown catch and run.
That's what you're looking for. So Georgia Tech, if they make a bowl game or not, I don't think that should necessarily be what makes or breaks Coach Collins in his tenure at Georgia Tech. I think it should be more of an evaluation of the product on the field. Like, do they look more competitive? Do they look like they can hang in the ACC? If they go, 5-7 and look competitive, they're in a lot of games, he's probably keeping his job. But if you go another 3-9, you don't look competitive in a lot of games, I can kind of get on board with, all right, let's see if we can get it with another coach, because
if you don't win maybe 1 or 2 ACC games, I'm kind of with you. And just to flip it over to the other side, if you're Clemson, though, you want to beat them by 50 and make it. For me to get on, like, really start to believe truly in this Clemson team as a whole, I want them to score 50-plus points probably, and it should look pretty easy, unless they're just running the ball, which they might be able to, because those backs are really good. But I think you want to see it look very smooth for Clemson, very easy. You want to see them execute offense at a high level.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not necessarily concerned with the amount of points they score. I mean, it should be over 30. I think we can agree with that. I'm more concerned with, how does the offense look in general? Does it look like people are making
offense scoring and looking good? Pretty similar, but
that's fair enough. I guess what I'm saying. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But what I'm more concerned with is that I just need to see DJ look confident. There wasn't a single point in last year's season where he had that, like, you looked at him and said, that's a quarterback that looks confident out there. Not one time last year. That's what you need. You need to have that 5-star who believes in himself, who believes that he's going to score every time he touches the ball, because quite frankly, you didn't see it last year. That's what I want to see. I want to see him in command of the offense. I want to see him accurate on his throws. I want to see him on time, and I want to see them run the ball better and protect him better. If you see those things, like, Clemson can go to the college football playoffs. They can easily win the ACC. That's how good this defense is. We didn't really talk much about their defense. If you're interested in me just gushing about their defense, go check out our summer preview on Clemson. It's disgusting. I think most Clemson fans know that. We'll get out of here on that. Again, guys, appreciate you guys rocking with the ROC Boys. As usual, if you do like the content, consider subscribing, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.